Before evil came into existence, long before the first humans set foot on Earth, infinite goodness reigned in the heavens. Everything was perfect. Every angel radiated an immense light and felt deep reverence for their Father, the Creator of all. But among all the angels, one stood out above all others: Lucifer. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Lucifer was the most intelligent, the most powerful, and the greatest in honor and dignity. In the heavens, everyone admired him. Lucifer was God's most beautiful creation, his masterpiece. He was the first being God sculpted with his mighty hands, the very first creation of all, and God delighted in making him his masterpiece. He granted Lucifer power like no other angel. Lucifer possessed the greatest intelligence, second only to God. But not everything could be perfect about him. You were blameless in your ways till wickedness was found in you. And so Lucifer became the source of all evil and suffering in the world. He became the Prince of Darkness, the corrupter of souls, the Lord of destruction. He became Satan. Lucifer's fall left a scar in heaven. Though light returned, it was never the same. Like a broken mirror, paradise would forever remember the betrayal. Lucifer's story is a warning that even the brightest star can fall into darkness. But how did we get here? What happened? Why, what was once an ocean of peace become the seed of evil? The heavens before the tragedy. Lucifer was a being crafted to the measure of perfection. You were anointed as a guardian cherub. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. Heaven is a realm of perfect order, a divine structure where each angel has a mission and purpose to fulfill. At the highest level are the seraphim. They are like living flames burning with love and purity. They sing without rest, "Holy, holy is the Lord Almighty." Next are the cherubim. These are guardians of divine wisdom and protectors of the universe's secrets. They are the shield that repels any shadow of impurity. In the orders closest to earth are the archangels and angels. Archangels, like Michael and Gabriel, are messengers of decisive moments, warriors who carry the divine message on their swords. And finally, the angels closest to humanity. They are the guardians of souls, accompanying us on our journey, ensuring evil doesn't draw near. In this perfect order, God wanted to create something extraordinary. From his infinite wisdom and love, he created Lucifer, the morning star. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Lucifer wasn't just beautiful. He was the leader, the beacon other angels followed. His charisma was magnetic, and his presence inspired respect and devotion. He walked among the angels with unparalleled grace. Seraphim and cherubim listened intently to his words, and even Michael, the great warrior, admired his wisdom. Lucifer organized the heavenly choirs, directing praises to the Creator with fervor and passion. His voice was like a flame in the darkness, a radiance guiding them in their songs and prayers. God hadn't created evil, but something perfect. Yet Lucifer, blinded by his own brilliance, let pride grow in his heart. His desire for glory consumed him. Like a hidden fire, it slowly destroyed him. The Bible tells us how his fall began. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. What was once his gift became his downfall. The beauty all admired turned into the source of his ruin, and the wisdom that inspired others became the weapon of his self-destruction. Pride consumed him. He wanted to ascend beyond his place, to raise his throne above God's stars. In his heart he said, "I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God." And then the heavens shook. Rebellion erupted and peace shattered like a fragile glass. Jesus himself, in a chilling testimony, said, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." In an instant, Lucifer was cast into the abyss, banished from the light that had been his home. His glory faded, and his splendor was buried in darkness. The morning star was cut down, the bright celestial body extinguished. But how could this happen? Lucifer in the Holy Scriptures. Though Lucifer's influence is immense, he is seldom mentioned in sacred texts. Why does a being with such worldly impact appear so little? Before discussing Lucifer's great celestial rebellion, this must be understood. In Scripture, Lucifer's character remains an enigma. He's spoken of only in fragments. The Bible mentions his story in scattered passages written in symbolic language. Thus, this video is based on the Bible, but also on additional sources. Primarily the book History of the Angelic World by Father José Antonio Fortea. Also on texts by Saint Augustine, where Lucifer represents the desire to rise above his creator. Augustine notes that Lucifer, blinded by his own light, sought to equal God and was exiled, leaving an eternal lesson. Now let's see how Lucifer's soul began to corrupt. Lucifer's descent into darkness. At first, it was a barely perceptible spark, a fleeting thought. Lucifer wondered to himself, what if my light could shine brighter? What if my glory didn't always need to serve another? These were small questions, almost invisible, but like seeds, they took root and grew. In the silence of his thoughts, he began to imagine himself on high on the throne, being praised. And with each duty he performed, that voice inside grew stronger. Meanwhile, heaven remained in perfect harmony, though something in Lucifer became more distant each day. The angels began to notice his change. He became introspective, enigmatic. Gabriel approached him one day. He said, "Lucifer, brother, what burden weighs on your heart? Your light grows restless." Lucifer looked at him and replied, "There are things even we cannot understand, dear Gabriel." Gabriel felt a chill, an unease. But Lucifer averted his gaze, avoiding any other word that might reveal the storm growing within him. Day by day, Lucifer began to neglect his duties. His voice, once leader of the heavenly choir, grew silent. The other angels felt his absence, as if a star were missing from the firmament. In praise gatherings, where he once stood first, he now attended half-heartedly, gazing upward with a mix of pride and resentment. Heaven had clear rules, but no chains. God had given each angel the freedom to love and serve. In their perfection, they also possessed the gift of free will. And so, as Lucifer wrestled between his light and shadow, the angels around him began to sense something strange, the tension of his choice. Some, dazzled by his greatness, started to listen to his voice with new ears, following him silently, as if his light could lead them to another destiny. One of the cherubim, noticing his change, approached him once and asked, "Lucifer, do you no longer find joy in singing?" Lucifer replied with a cold smile, "I've found other pursuits. Perhaps there's something beyond what we've known." Then the morning star made his decision. The spark within him became a flame, and the flame a fire. "I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." That night, his radiance changed. No longer the light of praise, but the blaze of ambition. Paradise, so perfect, so full of peace, felt the first tremor of rebellion. His name, meaning light bringer, was no empty title. He was heaven's beacon, the morning star that rose first, illuminating others in creation's night. Every angel listened to his words with devotion, for Lucifer spoke of God like no one else had. Angels were no innocent souls. They were wise, strong, each a reflection of God's purity. Yet Lucifer drew them in, not with weak lies or empty promises, but with his charisma and unshakable authority. He didn't seek to deceive the angels like a liar. He spoke with passion, with a vision so compelling that many followed, seeing in him a new light, like a shooting star briefly illuminating the sky. Lucifer gave the impression of being a brilliant and unique leader worthy of following. His goodness, his authority, his respect, his influence were all well-deserved. If we understood how this masterpiece of God truly was, we'd grasp why God himself praised his own work in the book of Job. Even his sin hasn't destroyed God's work. Even in his sin, he remained strong. The divine warning. God called him alone amid sacred silence. His voice, like a deep river, addressed Lucifer with love and patience. Lucifer, my son, the seal of perfection, I sense your thoughts straying from me. In your heart, ideas are growing that separate you from the eternal. Lucifer, with a serene glow, looked at the Creator and replied, Father, didn't you create me to understand and explore? There's nothing I desire more than to comprehend the depth of your work. Do you think that's wrong? God's sadness was profound, though contained. His heart, immense and patient, understood the fragility of the freedom he had given. He knew that seeds of pride could germinate even in the purest soil. Lucifer, God continued gently, your desire to understand is noble, but your thoughts are becoming self-centered. You've been seduced by the light I placed within you. You forget that this light is a reflection of my love, not your own source. Lucifer lowered his gaze, but inside, a fire of incomprehension and pride began to burn. My Lord, I have wanted nothing that isn't yours. My light is the gift you gave me. How could I turn away from you if I was made by your own will? God looked at him with eyes of infinite tenderness. He knew that deep down, Lucifer was beginning to perceive the beauty of his own glory as an end in itself. He hadn't sinned yet, but his love was cooling. God, full of mercy, extended his hand towards him. Son, remember where all light comes from. Don't let your heart be shrouded in shadows. If you turn to me, your splendor will grow in truth, and together we will be even greater than any solitary thought. But Lucifer, instead of feeling peace, felt a sting to his pride. It was a discomfort he could barely understand, but it was there. Didn't God trust his ability to remain faithful? Why so many warnings? He withdrew with a bow, but inside, an invisible distance was growing. As the days passed, his desire to understand and explore continued to absorb his attention. He no longer paused to contemplate God with the same devotion. The angels still worshipped him, and his voice still led the choirs, but his heart was divided. Once again, God called him. Lucifer, I have seen the path you're taking, and it pains me to see you like this. Your light is turning to shadow. There's still time, my son. If you return, the love within you will bloom anew. But this time, Lucifer refused to listen. His hardened heart sought only self-satisfaction and personal glory. In his mind, he began to justify his thoughts. Don't I deserve more? God, in his infinite patience, let him go. He knew he had given all the love and mercy possible. "I will not turn away from you," God said in a final warning, "but you are free to choose." God gives Lucifer a second chance. God's sorrow was immense, an ancient and painful sadness. He knew he would lose his most beautiful creation. His mercy was infinite, but Lucifer's choice had to be respected. Even in his fall, "I will love him," the Creator thought. As Lucifer drifted away, all of heaven seemed to hold its breath. Soon a great revelation would come to heaven, testing every celestial being, especially Lucifer. God, in his infinite wisdom, delayed that moment. He wanted to give Lucifer time to prepare, to grow in humility, to strengthen the loyalty in his heart. He spoke to him with a voice full of love and concern. "My son," he said tenderly, "a great revelation approaches, and when it comes, the wind will be strong. The tensions in your heart will be intense, like a storm tearing through the sky. You must prepare yourself, root yourself in obedience, for the test will be great." Lucifer listened sincerely. He knelt before God, gazing at him with devotion, and his voice, soft yet firm, arose from the depths of his being. "Father, whatever the test may be, I desire to obey your commands. I cannot promise I'll be perfectly faithful, but I swear my desire is to be loyal. My heart still burns with your love." These words were not lies. Lucifer spoke from the depths of his heart, and in his soul burned a genuine desire to remain loyal. Yet, at the same time, in a dark corner of his mind, the seed of pride continued to grow. He felt that he, among all angels, was special, unique. "Am I not the one who shines most brightly?" he thought silently. God, in his patience, gave him another chance. Once again, he postponed the revelation, allowing Lucifer more time, more space to draw near, to seek humility in his heart. "Lucifer, this test will not be easy. Even when it seems the wind carries you away, you must remember your origin, your essence. You must remember that all light comes from me." Lucifer's temptation was like the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. An earthly paradise reflecting heaven's harmony. God had given them everything, a place of peace and love. But in the midst of the garden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil was a reminder of their freedom, their ability to choose. The serpent whispered to Eve, "You will be like God, knowing good and evil." And this was the same mistake Lucifer made. In that whisper was born the desire to be something more, to not depend completely on God. The morning star, the son of dawn, had turned his back on the light that gave him life, choosing to walk towards the shadow. Free will, God's most precious gift, proved to be the most vulnerable point. In Eden and in heaven, pride opened the door to downfall, and perfect peace was shattered. The virtues that had been the pillars of angels became fragile, and heaven knew shadow for the first time. The great revelation and the ultimate test. God, in his infinite patience, had delayed the moment of testing time and again, speaking to Lucifer in the depths of his heart. "My son," he said repeatedly, "the time of revelation approaches. You must prepare yourself." It was a fatherly warning, a loving message calling for humility. God, who had loved him so much, felt that Lucifer could still change, that love could overcome the pride beginning to darken his light. But the time came when the waiting had to end. God had to consider all celestial beings, not just Lucifer. All of heaven felt the tension in the air, a deep expectation that covered every angel. And on that day, God gathered his heavenly hosts, all his angels, great and small, in an assembly that illuminated the firmament. A solemn silence fell. All of heaven held its breath. The firmament opened, and God's presence shone with infinite majesty. And then, like soft thunder, his voice filled the entire cosmos. "I will create a material universe," the Creator announced. "A place where life will flourish, a place that will reflect my love and glory in a new way." Then, before the angels, he unveiled the vision of what would be: stars, galaxies, planets spinning in perfect order, and on one of these worlds, Earth, a place where life would flourish in its greatest splendor. The angels watched, fascinated. In their hearts, joy grew as they beheld the Creator's plans. Everything was new, like a dream they never could have imagined. But then God continued, and his words became even more mysterious. "I will not only create this universe. On that world I will create beings in my image and likeness. They will be called humans. They will be of flesh and spirit, a blend of heaven and earth, and more, in that same place, I myself will become flesh. The second person of the Trinity, my Son, will take human form. His name will be Jesus Christ, and in that humanity you shall worship me." The silence in heaven became overwhelming. God the Eternal was asking them to worship him in the human form of Jesus Christ. He asked them to bend their knees, not only to divine majesty, but to a human face, fragile and humble. The angels erupted in a mixture of awe and jubilation. Seeing how the light of light would become flesh was an act so wonderful, so sublime, that many could not contain their joy. It was God's plan in its most unexpected form, a display of the deepest, most incomprehensible love. They acclaimed the Creator, feeling privileged to witness such a mystery. But the mystery of the Incarnation was not all. God also revealed that humanity would eventually become corrupted, and he would sacrifice himself for them through crucifixion. Yet among them, one of the brightest remained motionless. Lucifer didn't move, speak, or cheer. He watched with a distant expression, as if the light surrounding him couldn't penetrate his heart. His gaze was like a dark well, and his face reflected the internal storm raging within him. Lucifer defies God. In that moment, everything crumbled inside Lucifer. The idea of bowing to a human form, of worshipping God in the humility of mortal flesh, seemed incomprehensible, unacceptable to him. Why, he thought, why would perfection itself need to lower itself? Why are we, beings of light, asked to worship a being of flesh? He heard that God would create humans and that they would end up corrupting themselves. And knowing this, God would still sacrifice himself for them. The vision of the crucifixion was something terrible for Lucifer. This is what made him explode. These finite and ungrateful beings would even rebel. Not only would they rebel, they would also kill him. Lucifer was stunned. Could it be any more absurd? He thought to himself. He observed God's plan with a mixture of disbelief and disdain. The mystery of the Incarnation, the revelation that the Creator would take human form in Jesus Christ, had unleashed an internal storm within him. And from that storm, a burning question emerged. Why not me? For centuries he had been the most beautiful, the closest to the throne, the Creator's masterpiece. Why hadn't he been chosen for the hypostatic union? He felt his light, his splendor, his wisdom made him worthy of something greater. But instead of elevating him, God had decided to lower himself to human flesh. From this thought, bitterness was born, a bitterness that coiled around his heart like a serpent, suffocating every trace of love and respect he had once held for the Father. Finally, the decisive moment arrived. God was there, surrounded by the multitude of angels, and one by one, his brothers knelt in adoration, accepting the revelation of the Incarnation. But Lucifer remained standing, his body rigid, his gaze fixed on God's throne, and his heart filled with silent hatred. Slowly he opened his lips and, in a tone devoid of emotion, uttered a simple word, one that resonated like thunder in heaven's silence. No. God looked at him with a mixture of sadness and love, but Lucifer felt nothing but disdain. He took a deep breath and repeated, this time with a force that shook all present. No. His voice rose, cold and defiant, like that of a king pronouncing judgment. The angels present shuddered, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. How could the purest, most beautiful angel defy the Creator himself? How dare he disobey? Lucifer then turned his gaze to the multitude of angels, and with a terrifying calm, began to address them. Don't you realize this is a mistake? Can't you see that what God asks of us is absurd? His voice, charged with dark wisdom, filled the celestial space. He asks us to worship an inferior form, to bend our knees before mortal flesh. This isn't glory, it's humiliation. Each word, laden with intelligence and persuasion, embedded itself in the angels' hearts, sowing doubt, disturbing the peace that once filled them. God asks the unacceptable of us. He continued with icy passion. We are not the ones who must accept this nonsense. It is God who has failed, who has taken a wrong path. Why should we bow to something beneath us? We, who were made of pure light, should occupy a higher place, not lower ourselves. The angels listened, bewildered. His words seemed so logical, so full of reason, and in some, the seed of rebellion began to germinate. Lucifer, with the charisma that had always been his gift, looked at them one by one, his face reflecting cold determination. Lucifer, first among angels, had fallen. The intervention of Archangel Michael God cannot ask us to do something that defies logic. Doubt crept in. What if God is not in God? What if God was just a very powerful angel? What if he was merely a greater Lucifer? In any case, the seed of doubt had been planted in many angelic minds. His gaze, intense and burning, bore into his brothers, and many felt a powerful truth in his words. Lucifer didn't speak of hate, nor did he call for violence. He spoke of dignity, of the greatness of their existence and their right to preserve it. Lucifer knew how to reach their hearts. He spoke of freedom, of independence, of becoming something beyond what they had always been. He promised them a heaven where they wouldn't have to bow to anyone, a place where their own talents and light would be recognized without the need to subordinate themselves. God has given us free will, he said. So why not exercise it? Why not be who we truly are? With each gathering, his army grew. It wasn't lesser angels who followed him, but the most beautiful, the wisest, those in whom God had invested great power and beauty. Lucifer chose them carefully, seeking out those who, like him, yearned for something more. Heaven's most radiant beings, once the crown jewels of creation, began forming the rebel army. They were creatures of such perfection that they outshone all other light. And now, that light was beginning to darken with shadows. At one of these meetings, Lucifer stood before them with commanding presence. "We are the future," he proclaimed, his voice echoing like thunder. "We are the light that refuses to kneel. We won't let our essence be dimmed beneath the shadow of an inferior form. If God won't give us the place we deserve, we'll take it ourselves." His words burned with such fervor that every angel present felt a tremor in their being. He spoke with a certainty that made them question everything they had ever known. Thus, under his leadership, Lucifer's army took shape. Each of his followers was like a fallen star, a beauty transformed into a weapon of rebellion. The angels, who had once been the most loyal, the most respected, the most beloved, now rose as the first army in heaven's history. In their hearts burned ambition, pride, and the promise of a freedom that, deep down, was a chain forged by their own vanity. The firmament, once full of harmony and peace, now trembled with the echoes of war. In a corner of heaven, Michael rose, steadfast and determined, the small archangel who had fearlessly defied Lucifer. With his sword raised high, he cried out once more, "Who is like God?" And that exclamation, simple yet powerful, awakened those who still doubted. Michael, with unmatched humility and strength, stood before Lucifer's army, ready to defend the Creator's honor. He knew his forces were outmatched, that Lucifer's followers were numerous and powerful, but he never wavered. His faith was his shield, his loyalty his weapon. Thus in heaven, the war between light and shadow reached its climax. Lucifer, the most beautiful angel, the morning star, had transformed his light into a rebellion that would forever mark the history of creation. The first battle was fought between brothers, and with each blow, each clash, the heavens shattered, and the universe held its breath. The final battle. The battle erupted with a fury that shook the very foundations of heaven. On one side stood the rebel army, led by Lucifer. His splendor cloaked in shadows, his light twisted into darkness. Facing him were the faithful angels, led by Michael, the small archangel who had risen with iron strength, with an unshakable faith overflowing with humility and courage. Heaven, once a place of peace and harmony, became a dazzling battlefield, a war of light against shadow, of loyalty against rebellion. The armies clashed like waves of fire and thunder. Each blow, Each crossing of light swords created flashes that lit up the heavens like shooting stars in a fierce dance. The fallen angels, once the most beautiful and powerful to grace the sky, fought with seemingly inexhaustible fury, but the faithful angels battled with a quiet determination, guided by love and loyalty to the Creator. Michael, the lowest-ranking archangel, advanced at the forefront of his brothers, shouting with a fervor that echoed throughout the universe, "Who is like God?" Michael's strength lay not in his rank or splendor, but in his faith. He fought not for his own glory or pride, but because he knew that goodness, light, and truth were with him. And in that certainty, his strength seemed to multiply. The faithful angels felt enveloped in divine power, a protection reminding them they were not alone. The Creator was with them, and that presence gave them strength, surpassing any earthly force. Lucifer, enraged, tried to push Michael back. He rose on his wings, exhaling a shadow that enveloped those who looked upon him. "I was the first. I am the true light," he shouted. But his words were empty, hollow, a dark echo of what he once had been. The light within him was a distorted shadow, and his power, though formidable, could not eclipse the truth that Michael held like a pure flame. The battle was fierce, and the heavens themselves felt wounded. Angels who weren't fighting watched in awe and sorrow, feeling the weight of rebellion in their hearts. The peace that had been heaven's core was shattered, and the once perfect order teetered on the brink. Yet amid the destruction, hope stood firm. The faith of the loyal angels, their love for God, shone in every blow they struck, and every step they took towards Lucifer and his followers. At last, the force of good prevailed. Michael, sword raised high, uttered the battle's final words, "By God's power, fall, Lucifer!" In that moment, darkness split asunder. The rebellion, once so fierce and violent, began to crumble. The fallen angels, a third of all heavenly hosts, were cast out, dragged like stars plummeting from the sky. Lucifer became Satan, and with him all who had followed his ambition were hurled into the abyss. Heaven fell into a solemn silence, a hush that bore the sadness of an irreparable loss. The war had left deep scars, a wound in paradise that only love and time could heal. The faithful angels felt the battle's weight on their souls, but knew that light had triumphed. Truth, faith, and hope, those virtues which can never be defeated, had prevailed. In this victory, heaven remembered an eternal truth. Good always triumphs over evil. Not by force, not by violence, but because goodness is the very essence of God, a light that no darkness can extinguish. Pride, hatred, and ambition may fight fiercely, but they are fleeting shadows against the purity of love and faithfulness. The battle had ended, and heaven, though wounded, remained at peace. Michael's faith, the humility of his words, "Who is like God?" now echoed in every corner of the universe, an immovable and eternal truth, a reminder that God's glory is infinite, and that nothing, not even the brightest light, can surpass his love. The expulsion and Lucifer's fate. After the final battle, heaven opened to cast out the rebels. Lucifer, once the morning star, along with his fallen followers, was hurled far from the light, dragged into an abyss of darkness and desolation. In the act of expulsion, heaven itself seemed to tremble. The angels who had been the most beautiful, the most powerful, those whose light rivaled the stars, fell like banished meteors, cast into the lower world, a place of chaos and shadow, a kind of eternal exile where God's glory could not be seen or felt. Lucifer, now transformed into Satan, felt the weight of the fall like a burning iron in his being. The total separation from God, from light and heavenly peace, was a wound deeper than any physical punishment could inflict. The underworld, where he was confined with his followers, wasn't yet the final hell, but a state of chaos and utter spiritual isolation, a place beyond peace and glory's reach. It was like a shattered dream, a dark reflection of heavenly order, a realm utterly cut off from holiness. For Satan, this expulsion meant the end of his original purpose. Yet, in his pride and rage, his hatred morphed into a new mission. If he couldn't attain God's glory, he'd destroy it wherever he found it. In this abyss of despair, his gaze turned towards creation, to the material world God had promised to make. In his twisted mind, a thought took shape. If he couldn't have heaven, he'd corrupt God's most precious work, humanity. The idea of seeing humans made in God's image dragged into darkness gave him bitter satisfaction. Humans were the ones who had stolen his place at God's throne. That love, that goodness with which they were created, would become the target of his hatred. His motivation was clear. If he and his fallen angels couldn't be in God's presence, then humans shouldn't deserve it either. This hatred and resentment transformed into a mission, a deep desire to sabotage the divine work and corrupt the purity of creation. Lucifer's expulsion and his army of fallen angels had then a direct consequence on the balance of good and evil in the world. From that moment, evil began to exist not just as an absence of goodness, but as an active and organized force. The demons, led by Satan, began to seek ways to exert their influence over the material world, to corrupt humans, to incite pride, envy, and despair, the very feelings that had led to their own downfall. God, in his love and justice, had allowed this separation. The expulsion was not just a punishment, but an act of divine justice. The angels who had chosen rebellion, who had rejected God's love and holiness, could no longer dwell in his presence. God's love was always there, but his justice demanded balance. Those who had decided to reject the light could not continue to bask in it. In this act, the equilibrium between God's love and justice was perfectly manifested. Justice required separation, and love still granted the fallen ones the freedom to exist, albeit in a darkness of their own choosing. The story of Lucifer, now Satan, does not end with his expulsion, but rather extends into the relationship between good and evil in the world today. His fall, his hatred, his desire to corrupt humanity remain present in every temptation, in every spiritual battle that humans face. Evil seeks to infiltrate the human heart, its freedom, its desire for greatness. But this influence is limited, and good, which comes from God, always has the final say. The battle between good and evil that began in heaven continues on earth, in the hearts of human beings. Satan and his demons seek to darken the light of every soul, but God's grace, love, and justice are always present, reminding us that although evil may be loud and defiant, good will always triumph. Lucifer's fall became the beginning of an eternal conflict, a reminder that ultimately goodness, light, and divine love are invincible. As in heaven, on earth too, Michael's question will always resonate. Who is like God? Lucifer's influence in the world. Since his expulsion, Lucifer, now Satan, has pursued a single purpose: to corrupt the creation he once inhabited. The Bible recounts various episodes where Satan appears as the tempter, challenging not only mere mortals, but also key figures in the history of faith. The most symbolic moment is found in the New Testament, when Satan attempts to tempt Jesus in the desert. After 40 days and 40 nights of fasting, Jesus is confronted by Satan, who offers him temptations of power, food, and glory. Satan says, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Then he takes Jesus to the pinnacle of the temple and suggests that he throw himself down so that angels will protect him and thus demonstrate his power. Finally, he offers Jesus all the kingdoms of the world in exchange for worship, revealing his ultimate intention to usurp the worship that belongs to God alone. Jesus' response to each temptation demonstrates his spiritual strength and complete trust in the Father. Jesus firmly rejects each proposal, quoting scripture and reaffirming the truth that power and glory belong to God alone. This episode, more than a mere confrontation, exemplifies how faith and humility can withstand even the most alluring temptations. Jesus demonstrates that true power lies not in miracles or wealth, but in obedience and love for God. Another tale of temptation is the testing of Job. In the book of Job, Satan appears before God and, with a mix of arrogance and defiance, hurls an accusation. Does Job fear God for nothing? In that moment, Satan not only challenges Job's faithfulness, but attempts to question the very goodness of faith itself. He implies that Job's love is superficial, a loyalty bought with blessings. His challenge is an affront to the nature of love and faith, suggesting that no one, not even the most righteous man, can remain faithful amid suffering. Job's story reveals Satan's capacity to try and destroy faith at its core, inflicting pain and despair. However, Job's response, though filled with anguish and doubt, is a lesson in spiritual strength. In his endurance, Job proves that faith is not merely a response to blessings, but a deep-rooted loyalty that persists even in the face of extreme suffering. Satan fails, and Job's faith becomes an eternal testament to resisting evil and trusting in God. Moreover, his first major act after being cast out was in the Garden of Eden, the place where God, with his infinite love, had set the stage for human history. In that perfect garden, Lucifer saw a chance to strip the innocence from the first humans, Adam and Eve, and turn them into the first victims of his rebellion against the Creator. Taking the form of a serpent, a symbol of cunning and betrayal, he approached Eve with words dripping with seduction and doubt. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? He began with a question, planting the seed of suspicion. His technique wasn't overwhelming force, but a whisper that, like poison, invaded Eve's heart. Lucifer knew how to transform a simple desire into an irresistible need, how to turn doubt into action. "You will be like God, knowing good and evil." This promise sealed humanity's fate. Adam and Eve, tempted by the possibility of being more, of achieving divinity without obeying their Creator, fell, and with them, the world fell into the shadow of sin. Lucifer, with a single temptation, achieved what he had planned from the abyss: to separate creation from its Creator, to bring the celestial conflict into the human heart. Lucifer's influence hasn't vanished. His presence remains a constant conflict in human life. Each temptation, each moment of doubt, echoes that first choice in Eden and the challenges faced by Job and Jesus. Evil acts as an echo of that primordial rebellion, a voice trying to separate us from the source of goodness. However, in every biblical episode, in every story of resistance, we're reminded that good has the final word, that faith and love are the answers to hatred and despair. Lucifer's role in Revelation. In the Bible's final book, Revelation, Satan's ultimate fate and role in the end times are unveiled. This tale, brimming with striking imagery and prophecies, portrays Satan, the great dragon, as humanity's and God's ultimate foe, determined to corrupt creation until the very end. John, Revelation's author, describes a vision of the last days, an era when evil seems to have reached its zenith and the battle between light and darkness intensifies like never before. Revelation presents Satan as the great dragon, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. The same Lucifer, who was once the morning star, has now taken the form of a fierce dragon, a creature symbolizing not only evil, but also the destructive and deceptive power he has wielded since his fall. This ancient serpent is the same one who brought the first sin to humanity in Eden, and now, at the end of time, seeks to destroy all remaining goodness and light in the world. Revelation describes a time of tribulation, a period of catastrophes and trials where humanity is divided between those who follow God and those who succumb to evil seductions. In this account, Satan appears in his role as the great deceiver, the being who from the beginning has sought to separate humanity from God. In the last days, he intensifies his efforts, using every means at his disposal to carry out his mission of corruption and destruction. He is described as the accuser of our brothers and sisters, constantly trying to lead the faithful astray, sowing doubt, temptation, and despair. John's vision shows Satan facing off against Michael and the heavenly armies one last time. This epic battle is a continuation of the war that began in heaven when Lucifer was cast out. Now, in this culmination of time, the conflict reaches its fiercest point. Revelation also portrays Satan as the mastermind behind the beast and the false prophet, sinister forces that rise on earth to spread chaos and idolatry. Through them, Satan seeks to establish a kingdom that directly challenges God's authority. This counterfeit realm is a twisted imitation of the divine kingdom, Satan's attempt to be worshipped as a god, culminating in the utter corruption of creation. Here, his ultimate ambition is revealed, to usurp the glory he's always craved, even if through deception and tyranny. Revelation concludes with a vision of good's final triumph over evil. After the Great Tribulation and the last battle, Satan is defeated and evil's power is dismantled forever. In a symbolism-laden image, Satan is captured and hurled into the lake of burning sulfur. This place of eternal punishment renders him powerless to reach humanity or influence creation. This act of ultimate justice seals Satan's inevitable fate and that of his followers, an eternity completely separated from God's glory. Satan's fall in Revelation is the ultimate expression of good's victory over evil. God, in his love and justice, allows evil to act only to a point, giving humanity the freedom to choose. But at the end of times, when all has been tested and decisions have been made, evil is finally vanquished. This final destiny isn't just a consequence of Satan's actions, but a reaffirmation of God's power over all creation. In his ultimate downfall, Satan becomes the symbol of a failed rebellion, a dimmed light that, in its ambition and hatred, could never overcome the love and goodness that give life to all. The defeat of Satan in Revelation holds profound meaning for humanity's history and destiny. This prophecy reminds us that although evil may seem formidable, its time is limited, and its power pales in comparison to God's eternal nature. Good triumphs not only through strength, but because it embodies the very essence of truth, justice, and love. This final battle between good and evil symbolizes the divine promise of restoration and redemption for those who choose light over darkness. In the present day, Revelation's account serves as a reminder that while Satan continues to attempt to lead humanity astray, his fate is sealed. His power is limited, and his rebellion will ultimately fail. The story of his fall and defeat in the end times reinforces the hope that good, no matter how challenged, will always prevail. Faith, hope, and perseverance are the spiritual weapons that draw us closer to God and remind us that the final victory belongs to good and that God's light will shine forever. If you've been intrigued by Lucifer's story and fall, you won't want to miss the fascinating account of the 5 prophecies in the book of Revelation. These prophecies reveal Lucifer's final fate and his role in the events that will end the conflict between good and evil. These prophecies explain Satan's last great act to corrupt the world. You'll see how Lucifer's rebellion not only affected his destiny, but is deeply intertwined with humanity's future and the ultimate triumph of divine justice. Get ready to uncover the conclusion of a tale that began with a fall and ends in ultimate revelation. Click the video on screen to watch. You won't want to miss this.